Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 in this little mini series on the Q4 releases and the new highlights that that we added to the latest product release of Leap. So this will be the third and final one that we do this week, leading into Christmas next week. Really excited about the holidays. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. We'll get this off with just a couple housekeeping items. Number one. Today, what we're going to be talking on is attaching external documents to your contracts and proposals. There's a lot of reasons why we put this in, which we'll be going over. But this is a feature that we've been, that we've had kind of on our product roadmap for a while now. Pretty excited to have this in there, especially because Leap in itself, a lot of our customers do a lot of insurance work, and we're going to be pushing to expand on that for 2020. So again, this is one of those features that allows us to do that. Real talk on it. Any questions, feel free to ask away. So leads me to my next point. In your little toolbar for GoToMeeting, this every single webinar we've ever done, there's a little section in there called questions. That's where you're going to drop in any of those comments, questions, concerns, literally anything you want me to discuss on this webinar. Feel free to drop it in that. I'm going to be monitoring that throughout. I'm joined today by Michelle, who's our marketing manager. What's up, Michelle? And she'll be helping us go through this deck today. She'll also be helping me monitor this section. So feel free just to prove that you're listening and that you understand how to use GoToWebinar. As always, drop name and where you're joining from today into that section, and we'll keep this thing moving along. Second piece is, as every time that we do this, we also want to make sure that we understand who's on the call. Michelle's going to drop in just a quick poll to understand who's using Leap, who's not, and this will help us get through this. So do us a favor, drop in your response to that question. We've got 60% right now. Feel free to get that up to 100 and we move way faster. I know this is a short week for everybody, and I know we got a lot on the agenda to get going through. So almost there. We'll give 5 seconds, 80%. Come on, if you're listening, answer the question. Ooh. All right. And we're good. Sweet. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Let's get cracking on this thing. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about attaching external documents to your contracts and to your proposals. So feel free. Michelle, we'll keep jumping to the next slide. It's very simple. We're going to go through what that feature is. We'll talk about, what it is, why we did it, how to use it. And then lastly, what we'll do is we'll open this up to a little bit of Q&A. Honestly, you guys, today, this is going to be the fastest of the fastest of the features that we put together. This one is super easy to use. And I will say this, if you have not downloaded the new version of Leap, and you are an active customer, like 78% of the people on this webinar, download the new release, update it in the App Store. Make everybody on your team do that so you have access to use a lot of these new features. Otherwise, if you're operating on old iterations and you haven't updated it, guess what? You are living on a dinosaur. Update it. All right, soapbox yelling over. So again, we're going to take a look at what we do. We'll keep rocking through. So next slide you're going to see here is on the right-hand side. Obviously, if you're using Leap, you're going to be familiar to this view. That is the view that everyone's going to see on their iPad. When you click on the contract section, it's going to give you a list of all the different things or templates that you've built for your organization, whether those be different types of jobs. You can see in there whether it's a hover or Eagle View works the same exact way. If you use one of those reports, they're going to auto-populate in this as well. You can select any one of those to build your contract. Again, if you're not familiar with Leap, we've got patents on this, and we're the only ones who do it this way. It's pretty badass. There's no two jobs that are going to be alike, so build your contracts accordingly. So this allows you to just literally pick and choose the pieces that you want. The one thing that we have to note here is on the top right-hand corner, you'll note that there's that little plus sign. If I wanted to add an external document, I can do that. Clicking on that will take us to our next slide. Well, actually, well, I'll show you in a second. But going back to this, let me tell you why we did that before I show you exactly how we did it. So keep going to the next slide, Michelle. So we'll talk about the why we did it. Go back one. Yep, this one. So we'll talk about why we did this before we jump in exactly how to use this. Apologize, I got excited. So number one, a lot of our customers, as I alluded to at the beginning of the webinar, a lot of our customers run into these scenarios where you really have to be able to add third-party documents to your contracts or to your proposals. You know, we have a lot of kitchen and bath folks who use this. Oftentimes, and same thing with decking or like additions or sunrooms, oftentimes what people have wanted to see before even coming out to the home to get the on-site estimate is they want examples or renderings of what it's going to look like. If there's a design element included, sometimes you're going to have to include that to the contract. Otherwise, again, you know, they're going to be like, hey, this isn't what I agreed to. So being able to assign those documents or attach them to the actual contracts when signing in the home, sometimes that's hugely important. Insurance is another caveat. We have a lot of exterior remodeling on LEAP. So a lot of folks that do the roofing, windows, siding, you name it. And one of the things that we constantly see is that, hey, they had a hailstorm rip through this town. It decimated the siding on the side of this house, plus put a giant hole in the roof. Cool. Guess who's involved? Insurance and claims adjusters. So the thing you're going to have to do to make that contract as airtight as you need it to be, you have to attach a lot of those adjustments docs, etc. Otherwise, you're going to be operating with multiple files, and they're all going to be separate. They're not going to be attached. That's no bueno. So again, that is another major add-on, especially for companies that operate in those fields. The other ones that we typically run into, that's when you're going to have things like home inspections or any sort of, hey, I need to bring on an engineer to ensure that if we put the deck on the side of this house, it's up to code, the designs are what it needs to be, and that wall is going to be able to support the weight. Again, all of those are massively important components when filling out a defensible contract. Lastly, permits. You know, I've used this example in a number of other webinars that we've done. I put a deck on the side of my house. I had to, because of where I live in that like DC, Virginia area, I had to go to the county of Arlington, Virginia, and have them give me a permit saying, yeah, sure, that works. It's up to code. You can have a deck on your house before I could do anything. That was included in the contract that I had. Granted, the guy that I worked with gave me paper contracts, and we won't talk about that now because it makes me sick now that I'm a member of LEAP. But again, when you look at it, having the ability to attach some of those permits as well to your contracts, hugely important. So long and the short of it, these are just a couple examples, probably the most prevalent that you're going to run into. There's a number of different cases that we've brought up with customers. The long and the short of it is you can do it. High five. We're happy campers. So now we can get into how you do it. So in there, like I mentioned, there's that plus. We'll go to the next slide, and this is exactly what I'm talking about here. When you hit that plus in the contract section, it's going to pull up the actual hard drive that you have for that document, or excuse me, that device. In this case, as you can see, it's attached to an iCloud. There's a lot of different ways in which this can work. If you don't have a cloud system set up for your organization, that's okay. The other thing that you can do is you can also have your reps email things to themselves, download them into a PDF form, and voila, it's now saved to the hard drive of that device. So, again, if you're using an iPad, the smallest memory pack you can get on an iPad right now, I believe, for anything new is like 32 gigs. So when you look at that, if you have 32 gigs worth of PDFs, you have a terrifyingly large amount of PDFs on your on your iPad, and you should probably invest in a cloud system. But the long and the short of it is it's really easy for you to get that document to the device, and it's very easy to attach it. So the same concept is once I click on that, if we go to the next slide, all I have to do once I've selected that is it'll pull up that imported document now as one of those, call it a template or basically a separate section to your contract. So I can include that document. I can then go back and fill out the rest of the templates in my contract that I need to in order to get this thing done. Ultimately, and I'm sure all of you know this, and if you're one of the 22% of folks on this call that don't yet use Leap, once I select all those templates, I start hitting next, building all the details, which candidly speaking should all be synced to your estimates. It's very quick for me to get to my digital contract where that customer can then go in and sign everything they need to with their finger, or I can also translate that into a DocuSign and send it for them to remotely sign it. So again, this is one of the easiest features to use. The second you update your app within the App Store, you can use it. It doesn't require any integration or anything like that. You literally just have to update your iPad. It's that simple. So if we go to the next slide, it's really what it highlights is it's basically just saying, number one, download the update. Number two, that's it. Kick back, enjoy the feature, have a margarita, have some eggnog, whatever it might be. It's the time of year. Get the job done. At that point, again, we're just really moving forward, recognizing that all of our customers bring to us some of these amazing ideas. We want to make sure that we incorporate those into the app so that you can fully use whatever you need in the field, and there's never going to be a situation where your sales reps are like, damn it, I wish I had that, otherwise I could have closed that deal. That's the worst place you can ever be as a salesperson. And as a business owner, it's like, shit, well, if it only did this, it would have closed that job. Our goal is to make it so that Leap can do literally anything and everything, aside from helping you get dressed in the morning and drive the car to your appointment. We want it to be able to be that one-stop shop to get everything done for your sales and production staff, to get the job sold and get you more business in the future. So I'm going to go to the next slide, open it up to a little bit of Q&A. In that question section, ask away. Is there anything you need to know in order to do this? Jonathan Moore, you've been for all 3 sessions. Thank you for throwing that in there. High five. You're the best. Always a pleasure, man. Merry Christmas to you as well. Anybody else? Eric, excited to have you on the webinar as well. Good old Ken. Any other questions, you guys? 'Tis the season. Nope. We're going to give you another couple seconds to drop anything in there. But again, you guys, like I iterated on this, or like I mentioned or emphasized, this is the easiest of the 3 features that we highlighted this week to use. Make sure, if you have not done so, update the app in the App Store for not only your iPad, for every one of your team members. If they're using the dated version, they do not have access to any of these new features. So make sure your teams and your iPads are all fully updated. The next thing, Kate asks, if we pull a permit after the job is sold, where are we able to attach it after the sale is final? So if that's the case, let's just say you hypothetically pull a permit afterwards, and you have to go on site to do anything additional. You can actually create amendment templates, or call it like addendums, if you will. And what you can do is you can say, hey, we've attached some additional documentation. This addendum is, or this signature point is basically just you acknowledging that this is now a part of the original contract sold. You can create a template that says nothing other than, hey, we added a doc sign here, and then you can attach it to that. From there, if you're integrated with your CRM or whatever else it might be, you can send that out to the customer remotely via DocuSign, have them sign it. It'll save it back to your CRM. Or again, if you're in the home, let's say one of your production staff is on site and you pull the permit, they can go back during that remeasure and say, hey, we're just going to include this as the remeasure and sign here, here, and here. Whatever it might be, there's a lot of different ways for you to attach that back to that person's file and ensure that they received and can acknowledge that it's a part of the job. So that's what I would recommend, is probably attach that as part of a production template so that when you go back at the end of the day, it's included in there and you're all set. Any other questions, folks? And Kate, if you want us to walk you through that, we're more than happy to do that. So feel free to chat in, ask the same question, and one of our staff will actually show you some good examples of that. Oh, sweet, high five. Thanks for the acknowledge on that one. Sweet. If anyone has any other questions, Michelle, I want to be the first to wish you guys a really happy holiday. Hope everyone has safe travels if that's what's on the docket for your families. Number one, we're also so grateful to have every one of you as elite customers. For those of you who are not yet customers, don't worry about that. We're happy to reach out to you, talk you through your options, educate you more on who we are and what we do, and really give you all the tools that you need to decide whether or not this is something that's going to fit well in your business. So without further ado, happy holidays to everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of these and taking the time out of the last 3 days. We love each and every one of you. And again, happy holidays. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.